everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Bella and I love all things design and DIY. And today we are in my basement because this is where we're growing all of our seedlings. I have the grow lights turned off behind me just so that it's easier to film, because if not, they're very glaring. So it might not look like there's very much going on back there, but I have some very adorable little seedling babies growing. So the very first thing that we're gonna do is water them. So I'm pleased to say, but also slightly worried, that all of these seedlings were actually really well saturated in water. So I didn't need to water that much. I'm trying to be a better gardener this year, and I'm trying to take care of things better than I usually do and just be more balanced about everything. And so consequently, I think that's resulted in me watering my seedlings a little bit too much. And that's a new thing that I'm having to deal with in my brain, because I never overwater. I always forget to water. So I think I'm just gonna leave these for a day or two and just let them soak up all the moisture that's already there. However, I have loaded this table up with all of the very first 2 rounds of vegetables that I've seeded. So here I have, actually this might mostly be onions. Oh, there's some leeks. Okay, so here I have onions. These are sweet Spanish Utah onions. Oh my god, they smell so good. You can see the roots are coming through there. I think I sowed these early February, so they've been sitting here for quite a while. I also have just a few things of leeks in these little plugs. I did a ton of alliums this year, so loads of onions, leeks, and chives. So the chives I'm really excited about. I got those started really early, so hopefully they'll have a long enough season. Same with the onions and leeks, obviously. I did some of them in these really tiny plugs and then some in 4-inch pots. So I think the 4-inch pots will have enough room to kind of expand a little bit more, because they are going to be going in the ground very soon as the snow melts. But as for these little tiny guys, I think I need to pot these up because they're just looking a little bit sad, and obviously the roots are coming through, so I think they just could benefit from a little bit more room to give them a bit more of a head start. We're in southern Ontario, so we do have a pretty short growing season, so I just want to give these the best head start they could possibly have. And then I also have 2 more really cold hardy starts here. I have scarlet kale, which I'm really excited about, and then the rainbow mix of Swiss chard. I've never put out Swiss chard super early into the season. I've only ever sown it in maybe May or June, so I'm excited to see how that does, because I've heard that it's pretty cold hardy, so we'll see. And then the kale I know will do perfectly fine in the cold. In fact, I think it makes it taste way better anyways. I think that a lot of these could do with having a little bit of a bigger home. So I'm gonna pot all of these up another size, and hopefully that will make them a lot happier. I'm not jumping up too much in size. I think I'm just gonna use these little like 2.5, 3-inch pots, just because I don't think they need that much and I don't want to take up that much space down here. I cannot even tell you how good this table smells in front of me. I just want to eat now. I'm so hungry smelling all these onions. The furnace just started down here, so sorry if you can hear that noise, but I just wanted to show you this little cluster of leeks. So usually the nice thing about alliums like leeks and onions and chives is that their roots grow very straight down and they don't tend to get tangled. So you can plant a bunch in one plug and not have any problem tangling them and separating them out to plant. But what happened in this one, some of them went a little bit too far. So you can see this cluster's kind of going in this circular motion. I don't know if you can tell, but it's getting a little bit tangled up on itself. It should still pull out quite easily. Like, I was just able to pull one out without breaking it. Now the furnace is really going, sorry. But this is a good sign. You can see how like wiry those look. This is a good sign that it is time to be potting these on. Now, one thing I'm gonna be very careful to do, because leeks and onions look exactly the same at this stage. Label them. Label the leeks before I start on the onions. I am getting a little bit worried about spacing because this took up a lot just to pot those leeks on, so I'm hoping that this is okay. I do share this seed starting space with my mom, who mainly grows flowers, so hopefully I'm not being a bad roommate by taking over some space with my leek pots. I'm always worried about taking up too much space down here and using too much soil, but I don't think she'll mind when we have a huge harvest of leeks in the summer. So I need to take a break from planting up these onions because you can see I've only got this far in this one tray, and I have about 3 or 4 times this many, and this is how many plugs that's already taken up. So getting a little bit worried about spacing and everything once these actually go outside. Last year what I did when I did the onions, and they actually worked out really well. Oh god, these are leeks. They're not onions. Okay. Great. That's kind of annoying because I really meant to focus on onions today, but that's fine. Anyways, okay, my onions are over here. So last year what I did with these is I used these little cells. This is like one of the tiniest cells I think you could possibly have. And I actually just did 1 seed per cell so that I could just pluck them out one by one and put them in the ground, and they actually did pretty well. I think I planted them out too late because I started them too late. So that's one problem that I'm trying to aid this year. But I did sort of, I tried to at least, I don't quite remember all of the details of it, but I tried to do the Charles Dowding like cluster planting or multi-sow method. So I just sprinkled in like maybe 3 to 5, 3 to 6. Maybe some of them have a little bit more than that. Some have a little bit less that germinated because these seeds were 2 or 3 years old, but considering that, I'm really happy with the germination rate. And so what that means is that as these onions grow, they're all going to push out from each other, and it's going to result in more of a little cluster, just like it says, cluster planting, a cluster of onions that are going to be just a little bit smaller in size. So you're going to end up with like small to medium sort of size bulbs, as opposed to if you space them out all one individually, having one large one. The production on these last year didn't get that big anyways, so I'm not really growing for size per se. I would rather have a larger quantity of small to medium onions than a smaller quantity of large ones. So I'm hoping that this is going to end up being a really efficient way of spacing things out in the garden. However, I don't really know if I'm doing this properly and if I'm kind of reducing them to too little per cell for at least the leeks, which is what I thought were onions when I transplanted these. I'm kind of doing 3 or 4 per pot. So I think I'm going to continue on with that method when I go to repot the onions, but you saw what I was doing. It's pretty simple. I'm just going to do the exact same method with these. Oh, I just want to eat them. So my method with these onions right now is I was taking the sets that had 3 or 4 onions per set and potting those up in these pots. And then for the remainder, some of these didn't quite germinate the same, so these ones just have mainly 2 per plug. So I'm just going to do those in slightly smaller plugs, but plugs that still have the same depth as these ones. So these ones have a little bit more room to stretch out, and then the other ones I'm going to do more like 1.5, 2, maybe more like 2-inch plugs that still have this same depth so that the roots can go straight down and have lots of room to grow.